My business manager comes up to me and he's like, Anik, you gotta change, man. You're giving too much value out. You gotta change it. You gotta sell more and reduce the value. And I was like, what? Like, no, that's what I promised I wouldn't do. And I was like, that's all right. You were probably just freaking out. You're like, hey, what was the conversion? We had 250 people in the room. I saw people in the back. How many bought? And he goes, 3. Dude, for me, I cannot explain to you. It felt like someone pulled out the rug from underneath of me. I was like, what? That's the worst I've ever performed ever.
This is The Fighting Entrepreneur, the podcast dedicated to entrepreneurs looking to change the world. Learn how to start, build, and scale a business in today's highly competitive business environment. Here's your host, The Fighting Entrepreneur, Anik Singal.
What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? This is Anik Singal, your favorite person in the world, back with yet another episode. And today we're going to have a great story I'm going to tell you. But before I can start, what are you doing? Come on, are you a member at Lurn, Lurn.com? Are you a Lurn Nation member or not? Listen, we're going to put 10 million people into this platform, so you can either stand by and watch us go right by you, or you could join the movement. We are bringing entrepreneurs together from all over the world, and we are providing you with an ability to connect with each other, to learn from each other. We got amazing courses, some that are free, some that are paid. It's an amazing platform that we are building every single day. So get in there right now, free membership, Lurn.com. All right, let's talk about what happened. So from the time that you're listening to this, it was a week ago. From the time I'm recording it, it was this past weekend. So the title of this episode is what? My recent talk at a 10,000 person event bombed. Here's how I saved it. I cannot tell you how many lessons I learned about life, about business, about entrepreneurship, about myself, about everything in this last just few days. Okay. And I can't do justice to the story and teach you unless I go back a little bit and tell you about a time that was 10 years ago. So just bear with me because it's all going to come together and you're going to learn something really amazing. And for me, it was just such a pivotal moment. All right. So, I recently did this talk, right? Or I did a podcast episode. If you haven't listened to it, it was like how I made $212,000 in Canada. You got to go listen to it. And in that podcast episode, I talk about this revelation I've had that I want to start speaking again on stages and I want to get out there and I want to talk more. Well, what do I mean by again? So let's just go back and remind you on what I used to do. This is now, we're talking 12, 13 years ago. Man, time flies, right? Over a decade ago. I would be speaking at least 3 or 4 times a month. There has been weeks, I remember back then, where I would speak 3 times in a week. In 1 month, I remember having been to 5 different countries in a month, different cities. I would do events where I would speak at an event Saturday early, catch a flight right out, and be the last speaker at Saturday evening at another event, and then catch a flight out Sunday morning and be a Sunday afternoon speaker. So we're talking about being able to speak in 3 different places in 2 days. I did this like crazy. Now, why? Well, first of all, you make good money, right? You're able to sell your product. Back then, there were a lot of events. We don't have as many now. There were a lot of these like 100 to 200 person events. But the bigger thing is this is a great way. It was a great way for me to connect and get to know the leaders in the industry because they would be speakers at these events. So I don't know if I really talked about why I quit in the last time I did this episode. So when I talked about my Canada episode, I was like, why did I quit? It's almost exactly 10 years ago, maybe like a little under. So maybe 9 years ago. I quit. I retired. I was like, I'm not speaking anymore, even though I love speaking. I've been told many times I'm a great speaker. I enjoy it. I love being on the stage. So why was I miserable? I remember a conversation. This is an actual conversation I had with, then friend, now wife, Andrea. I'm on the phone and she remembers it too very clearly. And I was just really weighed down. I felt so horrible. And I remember telling her, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot speak from stage anymore. And she's like, why? And I said, I feel like taking a shower every time I come off of stage. I feel dirty. I'm like, you know what? Here's the thing. And here's the truth, everybody, because all of you have been to events where you get pitched, right? And then this term came out, pitch fest, right? Where you go to events and even though you paid for a ticket, you get there and it's just like speaker after speaker, pitch. It's annoying. Let's face it, it's annoying because you never learn anything. And here's why. Look, when you're on stage and you're there to pitch, you usually have about 75 minutes or so to talk, okay? 75 minutes goes like bam. And if you are there to pitch, there is a formula you must follow. If you want to sell someone at the end of that talk, you need to follow a formula. And it's actually my 5-step copywriting formula. You got to go introduction, you got to do your story, you got to do your content, you got to do your transition, you got to do your pitch. So let's just quickly look at that. Okay, your introduction and your story. To do it even half justice will take you about 10 to 15 minutes. Let's say 15 because honestly, it could take that long. And back then, okay, the better you establish your story, the more connection, the more rags to riches you will develop, the more you'll convert. This is how people are. By the way, consumers, listen, you're to blame. All right. If you think pitch fests are boring and if you're like, why don't speakers give more value? Well, because when speakers give value, you don't buy. And so those speakers, I'm one of them. When I first started speaking on stage, I was like, I want to teach, I want to do this. Well, no one would buy from me. So in my competitive spirit, I started kind of tweaking my presentation and tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it. I got to a point where I was like, God, I got to take a bath after I freaking speak because I don't give anything. So why? Because 15 minutes goes to story. Okay. Now content. Okay. You can do 30 to 40 minutes of content. And then you got to do at least 15 to 20 minutes of pitch. You break this thing down, there's not that much time. So you're sitting there thinking, well, at least you still got 30 to 40 minutes of content. Well, yeah, but listen, if you want to pitch at the end, you better not teach anybody a single thing about how to do something. How? You can't. If you teach too much in your content, you are not going to sell. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to give you a live story about this. This is all connecting back to this last weekend where I spoke in front of 10,000. Well, I spoke at an event with 10,000 people. I never spoke in front of 10,000. But I spoke at an event with 10,000 people, and it was about to be the most miserable bomb of my speaking career. All right? Why? Because when you show people how to do something, they reward you with absolutely zero action on the other end. By the time you're done, they come up to you, shake your hands, love you to death, and say, thank you, goodbye. So you have to start tweaking your content. You have to start building in fear mechanisms. You have to start building in greed mechanisms. You have to start teasing people with just enough, but not enough. And so that was the problem. It's what it takes to convert. I had never been able to find a formula where I could give true value, feel damn good about what I did, keep it short to respect the hosts and their event, and come off and have good sales that made it worth my time, the host's time, and wasn't embarrassing in front of my speaker friends to come off and say, hey, I converted 1% of the room. So back then it was like, you got to convert 10%. That was like respectable. If you wanted to get applause from the other people, you had to convert 15 to 20%. And I would see people do it. But they used kind of sleazy techniques. And so slowly and slowly, I started to do the same. And guess what? I started to kill it. I would convert like crazy. And that's why so many people wanted to book me in their events. So the day when it all came to a head for me was like, I just couldn't do it anymore. I felt like, man, I want to speak on stage, but I want to give people value. I want to teach. So I quit. I retired. I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. And I started doing things like webinars. So even with webinars, if you've ever been on any of my sales webinars, I go 2.5 hours minimum. And I've had many marketers say, you crazy? You don't need to go that long, dude. Just 60 to 80 minutes. You should be dropping URL at 75. I know that. I'll probably convert better. But that means my entire presentation will be hype, no content, no value. Or will remind me back of my stage speaking days. I don't want to do that. So what happens instead? I just kind of do longer webinars. If that means they convert, but my longer webinars end up converting very well anyways. Why? Because again, I don't have other speakers around me. That webinar is mine. People will stay. I'm an engaging speaker. And when I give value, people stay. And then I can pitch, and I can pitch well. I don't mind selling. I just don't want to sell without giving value. And I don't want the sell to control my presentation, which it would when I'm on stage. So what happened is a year and a half ago, I was invited to speak at GrowthCon by Grant Cardone. Man, I was excited because it was on my dream list dream board to speak to an audience of 5,000 or more. I hadn't done it yet. I think the biggest audience I had spoken to was like 1,500 people. And that was awesome, but I wanted to speak to 5,000 or more. Here he was with 9,500 people. And I'm like, I got to do this. But now here's the deal. This is the honest truth. Everyone's going to be pitching. And Grant Cardone, I mean, this guy's about sales, right? He's about sales. So I was like, I got to sell well. I got to kill it. I got to crush it. everyone there is going to be killing it. Like, I already know Russ is going to kill it. Russell Brunson's going to crush it because that's just what he does. That's what he already had done it the year before. And I was like, all these other people, right? Ezra was speaking. I knew he would do it. It was Tim Story was speaking. I knew he would kill it. Ty Lopez was speaking. I knew he would kill it. Like, I was up against the best of the best on this massive stage. So I start creating my presentation all about selling. Okay, gotta sell. Freaking bombed, in my opinion. I bombed. I walked off very upset with myself. And not only, it's not about just the sales. It's like this. I walked off. We sold like $350,000 worth of stuff. Like, so first world problems here to say, I didn't do well. But I was like, I sacrificed giving 9,500 people tremendous value for $350,000 in sales when I ended up still being like one of the lower selling speakers. It just didn't feel right. And when I walked off, turned around and I looked at, a good friend of mine, and I was like, it wasn't worth it, man. I don't like this feeling. This is how I used to feel when I came off stage before. I'm so glad I got to speak in front of 9,500 people, but I wish I could have just come and given them great value, and they would have been ecstatic, and I would have taught, and my heart would have felt great. And that's what I want to do for Lurn Nation. I just want to offer amazing content. This is why I love this podcast. Right? Because I just want to teach, man. I just want to show and share what I've learned and what I continue to learn. So anyways, I was super grateful for the opportunity, and I was disappointed that I didn't bring it. I didn't feel like I brought it for Grant and for their team. So I kind of was a little bit, I was whiplashed from that. And so I didn't really speak again last year. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to go back down that alley until Canada came up. And I'm on the record speaking about this on the last podcast about Canada. I was like, I had no idea why I said yes. It made no sense to me because I don't say yes to those kinds of things. But then I went up to Canada and I spoke and I loved it. So I was like, oh my God, I think I'm back. I think I want to speak again. So I start to book all these speaking gigs, right? Like, I call up my buddy. He is the best at this, and he starts booking me up on the biggest stages. Thankfully, I'm blessed. I have a big brand, and any event we want to speak at, they usually are open to having me there. And so Real Estate Wealth Expo was the one that came up. So a week ago, Real Estate Wealth Expo happened in New Jersey. It was my God, it was a show, right? It was a show of shows. It was like, 10,000 people at least in that room. When Tony came on, Tony Robbins, oh my God, the place was freaking shaking. It was so cool. So they asked me, they're like, hey, come speak. I said, all right, I'll do it. Like, yeah, I'm on to this. Like, I like speaking. So by the way, sorry I'm going long, but the story is very detailed because I have to tell it this way if you're going to learn the lessons I want to teach you from it, that I learned from it. So I have had so much going on. I've been so busy, man. I did not start working on my presentation for that event until like 3 days before. And they had asked me to speak about a topic that I'm good at. I've just never presented about. I've never done a sales presentation for sure. And I've never even done really a teaching presentation. So I start working and I work days and days. I start working on like Wednesday, and I'm telling you, I stayed up Wednesday night. Then I worked all through Thursday, and I had a bunch of other things going on in the company, other work. Then Thursday night, I worked all the way through that. And then Friday, I had to drive up there, do my speaker meeting. And then Friday, I got back home to the hotel. I slept for 2 hours and I started again. And all of Friday night, I worked on my slides. I was up until about 5 a.m. I slept for 2 hours. I had to get up, get ready, get suited, and get to the event. I was going to speak 4 times in 2 days, okay? Because they have a lot of sub rooms. So I had my first sub room at 10:30 a.m. on Saturday, and I get up there, and the room is packed, okay? It was like a tent room outside, but it was packed, man. It was like 250 people in the room. And it was like lines going outside. I was like, wow, this is cool. And I took this presentation. I had created a presentation from the heart. I had said, I am not going to focus on just selling. I'm going to go from the heart. I'm going to redeem myself from what happened at GrowthCon, and I'm just going to do a great job. So I presented. I did demos. I showed them how to launch ads. I taught. I was a little over time. And I go to pitch, and I felt good. But my pitch felt weak. My presentation felt good. My pitch felt weak. I don't know. I could feel it. Just didn't have that rhythm. Right? And I finish, but I see like people go to the back. I see some people at the table. I'm like, all right, it's cool. And I'm answering questions. And then my manager, my business manager comes up to me and he's like, Anik, you gotta change, man. You're giving too much value out. You gotta change it. You gotta sell more and reduce the value. And I was like, what? Like, no, that's what I promised I wouldn't do. And I was like, that's all right. You were probably just freaking out. You're like, hey, what was the conversion? We had 250 people in the room. I saw people in the back. How many bought? And he goes, 3. Dude, if for me, I cannot explain to you, it felt like someone pulled out the rug from underneath of me. I was like, what? That's the worst I've ever performed ever. Right? That's like horrific. So I had 20 minutes between that and my next presentation. So I'm like, so Jeremy Bellotti, our transformation coach at Lurn, he comes up and he kind of does like, you know, he does his business coach moment. Like he does his, what do I call it? Like a performance coach moment with me, where he's like, look, you make it sound too easy. You're not making yourself sound wanted. You've got to make sure you drive some fear, this, that. I'm like, all right, I don't have time to change the slides. Let me like try it again. I'm going to try to change the way I speak a little bit. So I go back up to speak the second time. And so I present, I cut a couple things out. I was, during the content, I was a little bit more pushy and driving fear and blah, 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 stuff I don't like to do, but I needed to do. And then I pitched, and I had about 200 people in the room, and 13 bought. So, hey, I went from 3 out of 250 to 13 out of 200. That was a big success. It was like a 6x increase in sales, or not really, actually, 4.5x increase in sales. And everyone's like, hey, that was better. But I was still like, it's pathetic. Like, I sold my soul, and I pitched, and I didn't feel good about it. And I didn't really get that great in sales. Like, I got off stage. I did not like it, man. I told my team, luckily that was my last presentation for Saturday, but I had 2 more coming up on Sunday. Plus they had promised me at the big room on Sunday. I was the last speaker that was going to speak to a few thousand people. And so I had a moment here. I mean, I was pretty bummed out. And this is the first lesson to learn, entrepreneurs. I had a moment to make a decision. I was tired. I hadn't slept in like 3 or 4 days. Now I just got my butt beat. I was whiplashed, I was disappointed, I was saddened, I was upset, I was troubled, conflicted, doubtful, you name it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, Tony Robbins is about to come on. And I can't even pay attention to Tony because I just running through my head. I was like, Anik, this is a moment for you to make a decision. What are you going to do about this? Like tomorrow, you have to speak twice. So you're already committed to that. So you're speaking, that's going to happen. But are you just going to go ahead and accept it, accept the bad results, accept the unhappiness, accept the fact that you don't feel good about your presentation from both a value and a sales perspective, and just go ahead and do these 2 presentations and just be done with it and know that you'll never be invited to speak again at the Real Estate Wealth Expo and just accept it and move on? Or are you going to double, triple, quadruple down and you're going to figure this thing out? Like, which is it going to be? Are you going to double, triple down and stay up tonight too? Forget sleep. It's 1 more day. Redo the whole presentation if you have to. This time I had feedback, right? I was watching the audience. I could see what things they were reacting to, what they weren't, where I was losing them, where I was getting them. And so I was like, oh man, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to, I'm tired. I just want to sleep. I don't want to stay up 1 whole more. I have to make so many changes because to go from where I am to where I want to be, I have to fundamentally, how do I even do it? I'm like, I can't do it. It's not possible. Paradigms, hello, by the way. Negative talk, right? I can't do it. It's not possible. It's humanly impossible. In 60 minutes, they're giving me 60, not even 75. 60 minutes, I got to teach. I got to give value. I got to make the audience feel entertained. I got to make them feel good. And I got to pitch them. And I got to close like really well and walk off the stage feeling damn good about what I closed. Not possible, man. Might as well give up. But I didn't. I left Tony Robbins' talk early. We went to lunch. And at lunch, I had a moment. And I just said, no. I refuse to accept this reality. I am going to change this. I am going to give value. I'm going to teach well. I'm going to do killer stuff. And I'm going to get amazing sales. I am going to kick butt. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to accept this. So I went back to the room. I slept for 2-3 hours. I woke up. It was like, I felt like I'm rolling up my sleeves. Now let's do this. And I started going through the presentation. Jeremy Bellotti came into the room, thank God. It was a great sounding board. We went over the presentation slide by slide. He was bouncing ideas. I was bouncing ideas. And after that, I had all this list of notes. And I was like, Jeremy, go to bed. I got this now. I had like 55 slides to redo out of a freaking like 80 slide presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I was up until 5 a.m. yet again. And I worked the whole thing up. 5 a.m. I go to bed. I slept for like 3.5 hours or something and got up. Then I showed the presentation to Jeremy. He liked it, made a couple more small tweaks. I was speaking at 11:30. So at 11:30, I show up. Now, here's the deal. I don't know what it was, but I felt fine. Guys, you've got to learn to love the journey and not be so obsessed with the end results. Because when you're obsessed with the end results, you're going to get depressed. It's going to diminish your energy. It's going to not allow you to come play all out. And I just wasn't. Like, I was fine. I'm like, man, I'm in a blessed place. I got one of my best friends. I got one of my, I'm surrounded by a couple of my closest friends. I got my wife here supporting me. I'm speaking in front of thousands of people. I'm getting the Lurn brand out, the message out. People are coming up to be shaking my hands, telling me how my books have changed their life, how Lurn Nation. I'm like, dude, don't even be disappointed about sales. Just rejoice in this and enjoy it. I've literally had this conversation. So the third event's coming up. It's 11:15. The room starts to get filled, packed, right? This time it's a different room inside the hall. But about 200 people or so. And man, I went to the corner, I said a prayer. And I tell you, I felt something inside of me change. I just felt like goosebumps went over me, and I was like, we're going to go kill it now. Let's go have a good time on that stage. So I walk up on stage, and the other speaker before me was still untidying his stuff. He was like getting rid of his laptop and stuff. And this is what he says to me. It's really funny. I walk up to him, and I'm like, man, how'd you do? And he goes, I had to talk for 45 minutes. 45 minutes is too long. I could have done that in 26 minutes. And I'm like, here we go. Like another salesy, egotistical dude. And I'm like, that's great, man. If you can do it in 26, I'm struggling to do it in 30. Struggling to do it in 60. Why don't you do my presentation? I'm just joking with the guy. And he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, I can suck just as bad in 45 minutes as I can in 26, man. I'm like, whoa. What just happened? He's like, yeah, dude, this is a tough audience. I'm not able to sell, anything. He's like, hey, have you spoken on the main stage yet? I was like, no, not yet. I speak on the main stage later today. He's like, oof. He's like, listen, brother, let me tell you something. You better push them, yell at them, push them, pitch them hard. Motivation doesn't work. Inspiration doesn't work. Value doesn't work. Nothing's working. Push them. And I'm like looking at this guy like, holy moly. And when he went off the stage, my business manager, John Talrico, leans in over me and he goes, buddy, we don't do that. We're going to stick to our core values. We're going to provide value. We're going to kill it. And I looked at him. I said, my God, I feel so good right now. He goes, why? I'm like, I just feel so good. Misery loves company. I'm so glad I'm not the only one who's not converting here. I was like, those guys yesterday in the room made me feel like, the people that work for the event, that made me feel like I'm the only one. Like I suck. Everyone else is out there killing it. So yeah, misery does love company, by the way, because that helped me poor guy was like upset and that made me feel better. I don't know. It was just this big weight off my shoulder. I was like, let's go out and let's just present now. Let's just talk to these people. Let's connect with these people. Like I'm getting excited just thinking about the mode I was in on that stage and people are in front of me. They're full room. I just went on that stage and man, I just owned that stage. I went on that stage and I said, this is my stage. You are my people. Let's go. And I was on fire. As a matter of fact, when I got done talking, my wife, Jeremy, John, other people came up. They're like, what was that? Who was that? That was not the Anik that was on stage yesterday. And I'm like, I don't know. Look, what I found out, so let's just pause real quick. I learned something about myself. On Saturday evening, after I had bombed, I learned something about myself. The reason I loved Canada was because I had 8 hours with the audience. I didn't feel rushed. I had time to get to know them. I had time to read them, study them, build rapport with them, give them value, teach them. The pitch was the smallest chunk of the 8 hours. It was a 30-minute ending of the presentation. I didn't even do it. Someone else pitched it. 7.5 hours of value and value, and then 30 minutes of pitch. That's why I loved it. Because I felt good afterwards, because I felt like I taught, I gave value, I helped change lives. In the 60-minute windows, it's tough to do. That's what I was struggling with. So when I got off that stage and John and everyone came up to me, they're like, what was that? What was that? I said, guys, I gave value and I loved it. That was Canada, Anik. I don't know how, but the presentation, the tweaks we made, people were following, people were stuck to it, people were learning from it, people were laughing. They were. It's just, I said, I knew the audience better, and I just was doing great. And then the best part is, man, when I was finishing my presentation, people started springing up, running to the back, fighting over each other. My wife actually said people were holding their credit cards over people, saying, "Take my money, take my money, take my money." Can you believe that? This is in a period of less than 24 hours with some tweaks and some mindset change. Bam. And then on top of that, people are coming up to me. This was the part that was my favorite part. People are coming up to me after presentation number 3 and saying, shaking my hand and saying, this whole event, your presentation, just your presentation alone has made the whole event worth it. It was the best presentation here. Everyone else is not giving crap. They're just pitching. You were up there teaching. And I'm like, whoa. I actually did pitch you, but that's great that I was able to give you value. That's what I want. And by the way, the end numbers came in. I closed 17% of that room. 17%. Just over 24 hours before that, I had closed 1%. And about 26 hours later, I closed 17%. Can you just think that for a moment? Oh man, it was like, and the best part is I was like, I got a presentation now that I love, that's not hypey, that's not bullcrap, that's in line with the brand, that's serving, that I feel good, that I can present, that I love, that I believe in, that sells well. Heck, man, put me on stage, coach. I'm ready to go. This is what I've been waiting for. I never thought in 16 years this was possible. So now my next talk is coming up. 2 hours from there, Pitbull came up on stage, rapped and sang and did his thing. It was awesome. And then after that, a couple more speakers, and then I'm up. So I'm in the back of stage getting ready. And, at this time, so before me was Trent, I forget his last name. Awesome guy, man. Trent, I know you're not listening, but if you are, man, it was awesome. Just meeting you in the backstage was a really nice guy. Everyone stayed for him, right? When I noticed when he went on stage, there was like 3,000 plus people in the room, maybe 4,000 people. The place was packed, loud, yeah, cheers. I was getting pumped. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait. I want to speak to these people. It's going to be so much fun. Man, Trent goes off stage. I'm the last speaker, okay? I'm going to be right last after him. This is like Sunday after, like evening, like not like late afternoon. People are tired. Like, people are getting pitched at, and it's just been nuts. Well, I walk out and I hear my name. They're like, and everyone put your hands together for Anik Singal. And you hear, like, I'm exaggerating, but that's really what it felt like. I walk out on stage, man, and this was the great mass exodus. I am talking about the Egyptians. Like, I'm talking about, like, just, it was an exodus. People were just leaving. They were just walking the heck out. My heart fell to the bottom of my stomach. I said, no, I finally have a good presentation. Stay for me. Well, I was left with about 450 people or so. I didn't count, but it was not many. I mean, listen, if you're in a mass, I don't mean to sound ungrateful. 400 people is a lot, and I love to be able to get my message out. I loved every minute of it. But if you're in a stadium set up for 7,500 and you got 400 people in the room, it looks really, really, really not cool. All right? So, as I walked to the front of the stage, I just reached an agreement with myself, and I said, I'm going to show up for these people. They stayed back for me, man. I'm not going to think about the people that left. I'm going to think about the people that stayed. They stayed back for me. They're tired. They've been here for 2 days, but they want to hear me. I'm going to bring it for them. I'm going to give them so much value that they will be glad and blessed that they stayed back. I'm going to bless them with my knowledge. And so I went at it. I did it again. And ladies and gentlemen, when I got off the stage, we had a 12% close rate. 12% on that big of a colder audience. The last speaker, after they've heard so many different pitches. Are you kidding me? I am so proud of myself. I said it. I'm so proud of myself. That was awesome. But the part of it that was awesome isn't the fact that I sold so much. The part of it that was awesome was the fact that I did it while giving value, while hearing even more people say, your presentation was the best presentation in this event. Of course, minus Tony Robbins, guys. You got to exclude Tony, all right? Tony had like 4.5 hours on stage, and Tony is Tony. I ain't going up against Tony yet. I said Tony, all right? But yeah, Tony was amazing. But besides that, right? So what are the lessons I learned here? Listen, I was in a moment where so many people give up. I almost wanted to, so close. I just did not want to do it. I was tired. The thing I want to tell you is the one thing in your life that could be failing the most right now, the one thing in your life that could be failing the most. Do you realize you might just be one click, one tweak, one little pull of a lever away from turning it around completely? Do you want to quit? Or do you want to double down, stay up one night, pivot, and make that thing? Make your coal and turn it into a diamond. Press on that coal and turn it into a diamond. I'm so blessed. I am so thankful and grateful for everyone at the Real Estate Expo for having me, Real Estate Wealth Expo for having me. Sam, if you're listening, I love you. Thank you for your faith and your trust in me. Thank you for sticking through with me. Sam showed up on day 2. She's one of the hosts of the event. And I was like, I didn't want to look at her. I was like, oh my God, she's like, I'm sorry. Like, I sucked yesterday. Nah, she came to me and she was like, I heard you delivered a lot of value. And for that, I am very grateful. Thank you for teaching. I'm like, oh, whew, another weight off my shoulder. I don't have to carry all this sales crap on me. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank John Tellerico, Jeremy Bellotti, my wife Andrea for going with me, for being there, for supporting me, for being through that mess. It was a freaking amazing time. Lots of things learned, and I am so excited about the future. And I just want every entrepreneur listening. This has been one of my longest Monday episodes ever. I want every entrepreneur listening right now to know one thing. Don't give up. One tweak, one little tweak. Come on, man. Just do it. All right? This is Anik Singal reminding you when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. Do the tweak. Come on now. Go to lurn.com, LURN.com. Sign up for your free membership. Join our entrepreneurial community. Make sure if you're listening to this on YouTube, you hit subscribe, you leave a comment, you click the thumbs up button, you click the bell icon. And if you're listening to us on iTunes or any of the other platforms, please do go to leave us a great 5-star review so more and more people can see this. Make sure you pass the Fighting Entrepreneur around to everybody you know. This is Anik Singal. Again, signing off for the day. Go out there and kick some butt, entrepreneurs. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.